Okay, this is just to clear up baseline dimensioning. First, you need to know that baseline and datum are the same type of dimensioning. Two different words that are going to be used depending on the context or who's stating it. They mean the exact same thing, baseline or datum dimensioning. This type of dimensioning means that all of our measurements are going to be from a common baseline. So for example, if I want to go ahead and dimension this part, the different widths, you can see that I have different features here. I'm going to dimension all of these features from the left side. So this is going to become my baseline. So in the manufacturing process, somebody laying out these parts is always going to measure from one side. So the furthest dimension should be the longest one. Extend these extension lines. And let's just make up some lengths. Maybe that's 10 inches all the way across. Forgive me if it's not super straight. Those don't line up perfectly, but the overall width has been given. But now to go in and give the other dimensions, all of them are going to go back to that baseline. So perhaps this one here would be 7 inches. And this one here might have been 4.5. Notice my extension lines have breaks from the part, and that the arrows of my dimension lines are touching the extension lines. Not going past, not overlapping, but they should touch. And lastly, to this feature right here, we'll call that 2 inches. Okay, so that's baseline. The nice thing about baseline is that if somebody made a mistake right here measuring 2 inches and they were off by, let's say, 2/100ths of an inch, when they go to measure to this corner, this feature, perhaps they could still be off, if their scale, their caliper, something was not calibrated or zeroed right, and they could still be off when they take this measurement, maybe that same 2/100ths, but they'll just be off 2/100ths, where if we were measuring here and then measuring this piece, if they were off 2/100ths here and off another 2/100ths in this measurement, by the time they get to this corner, they would have been off by 4/100ths, not just 2/100ths. So by always going back to that baseline, we can hopefully minimize how much each point is off should there be a mistake or some variance in the measurement. Anyway, that's baseline. And that really point at the end leads into the next one, which is chain dimensioning. But again, remember, baseline and datum are both the same. All measurements coming from one side of baseline. So chain dimensioning is where we put our measurements from feature to feature. So if this were 2 inches, and this next contour was supposed to be 2.5, instead of showing that it was 4.5 from the left side, like we did last time, we would show that this is 2.5. Now with chain dimensioning, you would usually put all of these chain dimensions arrow to arrow, just line them up, and go straight across or apart. This one, based on the last example I did, would have also been 2.5. And remember, we are supposed to give our overall width. Extend that. I got those extension lines definitely too long. And we said the overall was going to be 10. Now with chain dimensioning, I shouldn't include this last one. By having the overall width as well as these three parts, this has already been determined. So I have 2 plus 2.5 is 4.5, and 4.5 plus another 2.5 is 7. Somebody manufacturing this part, if they get all of these dimensions right, and they get the overall dimension of 10 correct, then this has to be what we want, or what it's going to be, which is 3. No one needs to measure that if they've measured all of these out. This, by default, will work out to 3. So to dimension it is to really over-constrain it. These are already constraining that piece, so we don't need to duplicate the constraint. Okay? Chain dimensioning may not be as great in that somebody measuring and trying to lay this part out, like I said before, if they were off in their measurement or their tool is not zeroed right, and their measurements are off by, say, 200ths of an inch, well, when they're off by 200ths here, and another 200ths as they take this measurement, and off by the same 200ths when they take this one as well, by the time they get to this corner of the part, they will have been off 2, 4, 6 hundredths of an inch. So that mistake, that variation on the measurement is going to grow, and this piece, where it was supposed to be 3, could significantly change. So in a lot of cases, baseline dimensioning is preferred. There are times where chain might have its application and a reason, but baseline is usually going to be nice to try to keep some variation from having that domino effect of falling all the way across your part.